So we'll go to motion 6. This conference instructs branches to use the national beer scoring system as a significant factor when determining which pubs are considered for inclusion in the Good Beer Guide from the 2027 edition onwards, proposed by Commercial Committee, and we have Dean Barrett coming down to speak on the proposal.
Good morning, Conference, and yes, I'm Dean Barrett from North Hertfordshire branch, speaking on behalf of the Commercial Committee. And this is the first of two motions that relate directly to the Good Beer Guide review and Commercial Committee's report that I summarised for you yesterday. And I first of all thank you for the reception you gave that report, not only in the room, but people talking to me directly in the bar and sending me messages online. It's very much appreciated. I will briefly set out the common factors on the two motions before proceeding with this motion's specifics. So, paying homage to a certain TV programme without the dodgy French accent, listen carefully, I shall say this only once. So, the independent reviewers had taken on board comments from one-to-one interviews, a focus group, and response from 5,011 members to the survey, Have Your Say on the Future of the Good Beer Guide, that was conducted in late 2024. That's the first point. The second point, as you heard yesterday, is the implementation of the recommendations from the review and report are planned to be overseen by a new time-limited Good Beer Guide change group, consisting of members from relevant volunteer groups who will work together and interactively with their existing groups, their colleagues on those existing groups, and with staff. And I have to say again, I've already had volunteers both in the room outside in the bar last night and online to be part of that volunteer group. So those are the common factors. So how does national beer scoring fit in with this? So it's been with us for many years, and yet clearly, because I'm here talking about it, we still are having a debate about how branches should use it to select pubs for the Good Beer Guide. That's not our published position, however. Both �what_pub and the scoring feature on the new CAMRA website explain that NBSS is there to assist CAMRA branches in selecting pubs for the Good Beer Guide and also to monitor beer quality. On our webpage, dedicated to national beer scoring, we encourage members to score, as that helps us curate the Good Beer Guide and ensures that we promote venues serving top-notch cask ale. Now, I have to say the new website is paying dividends already as it improved the ease of finding local pubs and the presentation of information about them, building on �what_pub's base. And we aim to go further with the digital improvements that we're going to make to the Good Beer Guide that I talked about tomorrow. So that's what we are going to do as a matter of kind of operational activity, policy, if you like. This motion addresses the criticisms of members, both buyers and non-buyers of the Guide, in the survey, which were summarised with the words inconsistent, confusing and bias, i.e. that they don't feel we are applying the same criteria across the country. So this motion recommends that we use NBSS as a significant selection factor to resolve those concerns. Now, there's been a healthy debate on discourse about this motion, and I have noted particularly that most of the discussion is about the use of the word significant. I don't think anybody's arguing that NBSS is important. But there have also been exchanges of views from correspondents on how their branches select pubs from the guides, which further demonstrates that there is disparity about how we go about this within the campaign and among branches. So the change group will be charged with locking down how the national beer scoring system is to be used as a significant factor. A number of commenting on discourse again have suggested that shortlisting is what we should think about, but let's lock that down. Let's provide clarity. So, at the early stages of implementation, we will conduct a survey with all branches to find out how it's done then, and then the change group will proceed to provide clear guidelines to branches how to avoid the concerns about these inconsistencies. And the guidelines will also set out how other relevant factors should be considered, such as rural versus urban coverage, and how to deal with geographic anomalies. Conference, the national beer scoring system has great traction within our campaign. You may not know this, but we had 460,000 scores last year from, and I'll refer to my figures, 34,000 individual scorers. So it's in really good shape, but we need to make sure that we are taking ourselves forward on a basis that everybody can trust that this national publication from a national organisation knows how it is choosing pubs for the guide. I urge you to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have a seconder? Yeah. Do you want to speak or do you reserve the right? Thank you very much. Okay. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? I can see there's a... Oh, no. Hubert, sorry.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations, conference. For my sins, I'm Hubert Gishen, the Regional Director for the North East of England and a proud member of Tyneside and Northumberland branch, which is actually a branch that religiously uses NBS scores to select pubs. And still, even though I probably agree with 99.99% of what Dean says, I still think I have to speak against it because basically the motion is not enforceable. So how do you enforce it? It's a good thing to write in the guidance, and there's nothing in there which you probably want to include later. How the NE, there should be an instruction for the NE how to assist branches with NBS scores, and I don't mean like doing it on iPad in pubs sort of with at branch meetings or whatever. I just find it's not it's not enforceable. Where's the measure of success? How do you check it? And the other thing is also, which Dean actually, give him credit, mentioned the sort of rural hinterland and the issues, because ultimately not all pubs are equal, and by which I mean that not all pubs get the right equal chance of MBSS scores. I mean, there are great pubs in the countryside, and I know since moving up to the northeast, I've found so many beautiful pubs in Northumberland that nobody knows about, and nobody ever scores them, because the last bus has left by 5 o'clock in the afternoon to get back to Newcastle, where I live. So unless we sort all these things, I fully agree with the sentiment of the motion, but I don't think it's quite there yet. And for that reason only, I will not support it. So thank you very much.
Yes, the hand at the back. Is this a question, information, or do you want to speak for the motion? Okay, yeah, well, anyone speaking in favour of the motion? Come on down.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, Conference. Anne Reader from Mid-Anglia. And I should acknowledge the support that CAMRA's given to us to do our judging, because we're a very sprawling rural branch and we don't have public transport, so we are able to do our judging trip. Okay, so I'm speaking in support. At our branch, we have a very efficient Secretary, Charles Murray, who ensures that we regularly are looking at the beer scoring each month and also use it to inform our shortlisting for our pub of the year, etc., and also our good beer guide entries. So I do support the notion that all branches should usefully be doing this. Speaking in support, though, I do feel that we do need to do far more to promote it and advocate it. And with my prop, the Good Beer Guide, I turn to page 902 and the reference to additional resources, which mentions the NBSS. So I think in supporting the motion, we need to do far more to advocate for it, promote it, and make it work effectively for us. In our branch, only 11% of us actually use the beer scoring system. So rolling out more tools to encourage people to use it, to make the connection between beer scoring and also the entries into our Good Beer Guide, and also using our beer scoring to ensure that our pub of the year, our club of the year, our cider pub of the year are informed by beer scoring, should incentivise a lot more of our members to make use of it. So I speak in support of the motion, but hope there'll be a lot more support for members to make better use of our beer scoring system. Thank you.
Do I have anyone to speak against the motion? Yep.
Peter Down, Bradford Branch. Am I against the beer scoring system? No. As has already been mentioned, it's a good beer guide. It makes sense to have beer scoring. However, there are big issues with it, some of which have already been mentioned. In Bradford Branch, we're probably one of the outliers in the fact that we do not rely on national beer scoring. We use a nomination process open to all branch members. We get the nominations in from them, and then we have a selection and ratification process at our branch meetings, where we go through the various pubs that have been nominated, and then from there, we make our selections for the Good Beer Guide. Some of those may be rejected on the grounds of beer quality, or on the grounds of change of management, which might have an impact on beer quality. We have that process in place. We don't have to rely on the national beer scoring system. The issue I have with the national beer scoring system is that we'll rely on those members that use it. We are trying to activate as much of our membership as possible. We are trying to encourage them to get involved in the campaign. We want to make it as easy as possible. By relying on the national beer scoring system at the moment, I fear that the selection process will go to a smaller handful of active members, and it will disenfranchise the others. We should be doing more to encourage participation by our existing members and potentially new members. Thank you.
Do you want to speak in favour, Brett? Yeah. Brett?
Sarah. And I'll summarise it. Yeah.
You're going to wait till the end?
Yeah.
Right. But Sarah, you'd like to speak in favour? Okay.
I don't feel I've spoken enough yet, so here we go. Sarah Crawford, Kingdom of Fife Branch, really shy, don't like public speaking, but here we go. Right, I really wanted to support this motion because I think at the core of this motion is about fairness, about credibility, making sure that the Good Beer Guide continues to represent what we stand for as CAMRA. MBSS is our most objective, democratic tool for assessing beer quality. It's reported pint by pint, day by day, by people in this room, by people outside the room, by our members on the ground. So when we ask branches to use MBSS scores significantly in their GBG selections, we're not removing that local insight that Bradford has. We're strengthening it. We're giving our volunteers the confidence that their choices are backed by evidence and not just opinion, habit or bias. Every score submitted is a small act of care. It's a member saying, I found this beer, I found this pub, it's good, it matters. When hundreds of these scores come together, they tell a powerful story, one that ensures consistency, one that upholds the guide's reputation, one that gives every pub a fair shot, not just those who have the loudest champions. It's about transparency, it's about standing up to challenge, and it's about celebrating the pubs that earn their place in the guide, not just once, but pint after pint all year long. Let's make use of the best tools we already have. Let's trust our members. Let's protect the integrity of the Good Beer Guide. Please support the motion.
Would you like to speak against? Yep, come on down.
Clive Wormsley from 𝗠𝗲𝗺𝗯𝗲𝗿𝗀 branch in northwest Wales. So I'm going to provide a little bit of context to this. We are a branch where to go from our most northerly pub to our most southerly pub, if you were to drive, takes about over 2.5 hours, perhaps 3 hours. To put another bit of context, we're also a branch which has a population within it that is relatively small. It's the size of a medium to large town in England, but spread across a huge, huge area. The population levels are very low. The problem with this motion is it is very urban focused. It's going to work fine in urban areas, but it will not work in northwest Wales. And to put that into context, when we do, as a branch, utilise, and if it said, instead of significant factor, to consider and utilise, I would have no issues with this motion. But to say use it as a significant factor when we look at our pubs, we use the NBBS data as a rough guide, but to put it in context, for most pubs, there's less than 10 scores in the last 12 months. It has very low value. If we then correlate it with our assessments based on the kind of nominations, it really isn't a very good tool. So I urge you to reject this motion because it cannot work across the whole of all of the branches across the moon. Thank you very much.
Would you like to speak in favour, Paul? I'm going to wait and see if there's someone who hasn't spoken yet. Anyone like to speak in favour? Yeah, at the back. I think we'll go back and forth a little bit, so we'll get back to you.
Morning, Chris Rouse, North West Essex. The motion clearly says a significant factor, not the only factor. We've already had branches that say they use it in a part of their process. My branch, we use it at the beginning of our process to tell us pubs that have improved and pubs that have gone down. We then have our own process of visiting those pubs to confirm whether they're worthy of the GBG. So please support this motion because it's what we need to make the GBG fully trustable. If your branch can't make full use of the NBSS data, so be it. You need to try and get more people to put in scores. But we have to have a consistent approach across the campaign, and this motion tries to bring that. So please support the motion. Thank you.
And I'm going to go to Elaine at the back for against.
And you can still just about see me. Elaine Tierney, Branch Consort, Coventry and District Branch. This is an entirely personal comment. When I go for a beer, I'm not doing admin. I'm a retired accountant. I've had enough number crunching and thinking about numbers the rest of my life. What I want to think is, God, that's great, or oh, no, you can drink that, Mike, or the bit at the end. And I think that what I bring to our branch's method, which is nominations, and then you go and you can seriously consider the ones that have been nominated with more of a number crunching head on perhaps. But I'm not going to start doing beer scoring because it would ruin my evening. Thank you.
I believe there was someone in favour. Yep, gentleman over there.
Yeah, good morning, conference. Richard Adam, Maidstone and Mid-Kent branch. Although my fellow branch members wouldn't really know it because I'm a very poor attendee at branch activities for various complicated reasons. But what I can do is I can support the campaign in other ways, more at national type things than branch. And one of the ways I can really do that is I can score beers when I'm out and about all over the country, contributing, I hope, to the campaign, and I really welcome the chance to do that and the branches that make use of the NBBS. But if I go to Bradford and score a beer, essentially I'm wasting my time, and I don't think that's right. Thank you.
Is that against? Yep, point of information. Well, you're going to get one.
Thanks. So, I haven't partaken in any ratings, and I don't quite know how the system works, but...
Can you just let us know who you are?
Sorry. Eddie, Exeter and East Devon branch. If you had two beers from two pubs, one's an urban pub, one is a rural pub, the urban one has 100 ratings, gets 8.5 out of 10, for example, and the rural pub has 10 ratings and also receives 8.5 out of 10 based on a weighted average. Does that mean that the urban one would get a more privileged treatment in the guide, or would the score alone suffice to give consideration? Or have I misunderstood the whole system?
I could answer, but I might come to Brett in a moment. So essentially, at the moment, policy is branches. The policy says they should consider the score, but they don't have to, and it should be a thing. And you go through the process, and every branch does it a little bit different. So there is no single answer here, because I imagine you'll get 218 different versions, even if they're very similar. But what there is if you do use MBSS, we make available, and Brett and other volunteers have put together an Excel spreadsheet with some macros in it that you put, it pulls through all the data, and then it gives you can just rank by average, and those two pubs would appear side by side, and some branches just then have a discussion about which one, is more likely. But that system also does have a confidence rating, which takes into account the number of scores, how many different days, how many different visitors, all this sort of stuff to try and differentiate. But again, that's optional. Yeah. Laura.
Yeah, hi, Laura Emerson, Norwich and District. I also would add that if you are new to Good Beer Guide and how it takes place, branches have allocations. So an urban branch would have an allocation, a rural branch would have an allocation, a mixed branch would have an allocation, and they balance those allocations. So it's not purely that the rural pubs have fewer entries, and they wouldn't then, though we take that into account with rural and urban branches as well.
Cool. We are on to anyone against. Ben. A point of information then. So you'll get a microphone from Jane.
Thank you, Ben Wilkinson, South Herts branch. Dean mentioned that the definition of significant is going to be determined by I think you called it a change group. When they've worked that out, will you be coming back to, for example, conference next year with another motion for us to vote on the details of that, or in supporting this motion, are we entrusting whatever they come up with?
Yeah, okay, thank you, Ben. The answer is the latter. We are entrusting that group to come up with a recommendation and put it into operation. So for voting for this motion, you were agreeing that the process of locking down exactly what we mean by significant and what other factors should be taken into account and turning those into guidelines that go to all branches will be decided by that committee. But essentially, as you hope you saw from what I was saying, it's a cross-functional group of existing groups that are involved in all the necessary factors, and of course they will bring that to the National Executive. So you're trusting that group and us to make that decision.
Okay, thanks, Dean.
Thank you very much. Does anyone wish to speak against the motion?
Morning conference, Darren Doughty, Wolverhampton branch. The biggest concern I think here is the word significant. It's a bit vague, but a bit precise as well all at the same time. We have now understanding of how this will be implemented. One of the biggest concerns, being from Wolverhampton branch, is that the National Club of the Year, the first club in Cotsall, using the MBSS scoring in a significant way, whatever that means, would have meant that it didn't get an entry into the Good Beer Guide, which seems to be quite a big anomaly, and I believe proves that this is not a feasible way of moving forward. I do agree that we need to have some formulated agreement across branches so that the Good Beer Guide is brought together and is accountable, but I believe that this is not the way forward. Thank you.
Paul, would you like to speak in favour?
Morning conference, Paul Sanders, North Sussex branch. I'm also the regional director for the South East of England, and over the last 5.5 years I've represented nearer 50 branches as RD for other regions, and I have seen the anomalous use of not using MBSS. I shall now retract slightly. We are a campaign, and the key part of our campaign is activation, and this is the easiest way that you can get your inactive members in those difficult to reach parts of your branch to be active, to engage with you. You can target those people in those areas that you can't see those pubs and ask them to go and score. I have had positive feedback from a branch that has done that. So why not use the tools we have available to extend your reach to get good scores? The clue in this is the good beer guide, not the I like the pub guide. We have the tools to help you. Please use them. Please make my life easier. It is very difficult to go in there and you walk into a pub. To answer the gentleman from Wolverhampton, 2 different competitions. Okay, so it would fail to get in the guide. But it got into competition because it was the best club. And there's a finite difference. You can use the MBSS or the Good Beer Guide as your shortlist for your potty. But what you are trying to do is get the best for both worlds. But you can use it differently. Thank you very much for your time.
Do we have anyone to speak against the motion? Point of information on the side. Oh, was this an against? We'll go with the point of information, then we'll go for the against.
James Williams, Derby branch. My point of information is, on pubs that are rural, quite a lot of the time they're not scored because there's no signal in the area. Are you going to factor that into your motion? Because some pubs don't get because some people only vote during the time when they're in the pub and they don't want to go out and do admin again. So will that be a factor in your motion?
Hello. Well, I guess on the basis that you mentioned it, yes, we will take everything that's been said, and I think I mentioned that when I was doing the report yesterday. Everything that's been said on discourse, everything that's been said in this conference, we will put into the Good Beer Guide change group to make sure that they have considered it. Will we solve everything for the 2027 edition? We frankly don't expect to. We think this is a long process, but we wanted to take big steps in the first year. So you have mentioned it, it will now be considered.
Thank you. Point of information.
David Blakey, Portsmouth, Hampshire. The NBSS is not a perfect system. We all understand this. I think we're getting bogged down in the problems and shortcomings of the NBSS. For example, when I'm scoring a beer, I score it the day after I've had the beer. I've got a picture on my camera. I know which one I had. So scoring the day after when you're home at your Wi-Fi is easy. It's not really an admin task. So the system has flaws. We only have a quarter of members engaged in scoring. Let's boost the number of members who score. Let's make the NBSS system better. I support this motion. It is a good motion, despite getting hung up on one word.
Sounds like a speech rather than a point of information. And I, despite this amazing sheet, have lost track. We're on against. Does anyone?
Norrie Porter, Shrewsbury in West Shropshire. I had been here to speak in favour of this motion because I think voting with using NBSS is a great thing for the campaign, great thing for pubs. But I'm so concerned about the fact that the discussions of the change group are not going to be brought back to members before they're implemented, that I've decided that I'm going to speak against. And I shall probably vote and possibly speak against the next motion too, if the answer is the same, that there's not going to be any further engagement of the wider membership. The NBSS, as it stands at the moment, is quite open to distortion by individuals and groups of members. An individual who scores every pub very highly or every pub very lowly is not at the moment moderated in any way in the NBSS system. And so we need to see what the proposals are for making sure that the information in NBSS is actually accurate before we can use it in a significant way. And we don't know what that significant way is. I have to say that in Shrewsbury in West Shropshire, we allocate some of our GBG places on an absolute basis of the high confidence NBSS scores. So the first 5 places in the guide go to the first 5 high confidence scores in NBSS. The rest of The shortlist for the GBG is then made up of other pubs who have scored highly, and scoring highly in Shrewsbury and West Shropshire branch means that you have to have had an average, including out-of-branch scores, of 3.5 over the previous 12 months before, not 3.0. It's not good beer, it's very good beer in Shrewsbury to get into the guide. So I would love to see the results of significant and the results of the proposals for how we are going to implement that as part of our selection process. I would love to see that brought back. Not necessarily to conference, so I do accept that there was a proposal for that, and I would support the proposal if it was put forward. But we need to get the proposal, the discussions back with branches again before it's implemented. It's the biggest thing we do each year, and so we have to make sure that branches are alongside it. Thank you.
Brett, would you like to summarise, and then we'll move to a vote?
Brett Lanyosh, I guess because I'm chair of the beer scoring advisory group, I'm speaking to this motion, summarising. But I'm trying to sort of take my mind back to when I was promoting and starting MBSS, and I'm actually really heartened by the fact so many people in this room have taken on beer scoring, they do it. Now, there are some key messages here. It's a democratic system. That's it. If you are in favour of a democracy, then you should be supporting this motion. Now, it may not do everything you want, and there are certainly some challenges there, but I would say that the Beer Scoring Advisory Group will be a key stakeholder on the working group that Dean's mentioned, and I will not let, personally, I will not let it go the wrong way or whatever. The key thing is, MBSS is a tool that relies on a balance between a branch democracy being able to allow to do things and the centre saying you should do this. You can't totally get it one way or the other because that never works. But the weakness is there, and the reason I think for all the people who are speaking against it is because of you all agree on a different part of that balance. I hope that makes sense. But it's key to what so much the camera does, that this idea of branch autonomy. But the key message is it's a democratic system. All the people who've spoken in favour, if you add all those things up together, it just makes sense because it's democratic and it's simple. It's flawed. It never was intended to be a scientific system. We use it at the end towards that. Elaine said, I don't score. When I go for a drink, I don't want to sort of score the beer. That's perfectly right. When I go to a beer festival, I don't want to work as a steward. Am I against stewards? No, I absolutely, I don't love stewards. No, that's I'm going with no. What I'm saying is we all have different elements within the campaign and we all work together. And this is a good example. It's moving in the right trajectory. We now have a beer scoring advisory group doing lots of really good stuff that will address all the issues and more. We want the feedback from you. Nick has been doing a great job in taking the information down. I hope I've covered all the points that were questioned by the people who are speaking against, and apologies if I haven't, but this is an ongoing thing. It's never going to be perfect, don't accept it. It ever will be, but we're moving in the right direction. I'll go back to and I'll finish at this point. I'll go back to the days before we had NBSS. It was 5 people in a darkened room, and that's how we selected pubs for the Good Beer Guide. We've now moved well away from that. Nobody even questions that. So please support this motion. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to a vote. So all those in favour of motion 6, raise your hand. All those against? Motion is carried.